Good morning, and it is time to spook. Today we are going to be talking about Friday the 13th. We're going to be talking about the history, the curses, and the Wiccan beliefs. And I cannot wait because we have a Friday the 13th in October, and I don't remember the last time that happened. And I love Friday the 13th and Halloween and just October and fall and cold stuff and spooky season and unraveling, and let's get down to spook. Okay. The history and origins of Friday the 13th, myths and curses. Early historical origins. The fear associated with Friday the 13th has ancient roots in various cultures and beliefs. In numerology, both the number 13 and Friday were historically considered unlucky. The combination of these two elements created a potent source of superstition. Biblical influence. Some traces of fear of the number 13 date back to the Last Supper, where Jesus and his 12 apostles dined together before his crucifixion, making Judas the 13th person present. This association with betrayal and tragedy contributed to the superstition. Friday as an unlucky day. The belief in Friday as an unlucky day can be linked to Norse mythology. Friday was named after Freya, the Norse goddess of love and fertility. However, it was also considered a day associated with bad luck and death due to the stories of Odin's crucifixion and Christ's crucifixion taking place on Fridays. The 13th tarot card. In tarot symbolism, the 13th card in the deck is the death card, which is often misunderstood as predicting actual death. However, in tarot, the death card signifies transformation and change rather than literal mortality. Nonetheless, this connection added to the negative perception of the number 13. Knights Templar and Friday the 13th. One of the most famous instances in history of Friday the 13th superstition is the arrest and execution of the Knights Templar on Friday, October 13th, 1307. Oh, I guess 1307. King Philip IV of France ordered a mass arrest of the Templar Knights, leading to their torture and eventual dissolution. This historical event further solidified the day's association with misfortune. Pop culture influence. The combination of these various cultural influences created a potent atmosphere of superstition around Friday the 13th. This superstition was further fueled by books, plays, and other forms of media that depicted the day as one of calamity. Horror and films, which we will be talking about the Friday the 13th movies when I'm done doing the history. In the 20th century, the Friday the 13th superstition found new platform in popular culture, particularly in the realm of horror films. The Friday the 13th movie franchise, which began in 1980, capitalized on the fear surrounding the day, and Jason Voorhees, the franchise's antagonist, became an iconic horror figure. Modern-day superstition. Today, Friday the 13th is still widely regarded as an unlucky day by many. Some individuals avoid making significant decisions, traveling, or engaging in new endeavors on this day due to lingering superstitions. Cultural variations. It's important to note that while Friday the 13th is seen unlucky in many Western cultures, this perception is not universal. In some cultures, other numbers or days are considered unlucky, emphasizing the subjectivity of superstitions. The history and origins of Friday the 13th myths and curses are a blend of historical events, cultural beliefs, and influences from various sources. The negative connotations associated with the day have persisted through time, leaving a lasting imprint on our collective consciousness. The history of Friday the 13th in Wiccan religion. In Wiccan belief systems, Friday and the number 13 hold different connotations compared to traditional superstitions. Wicca is a modern pagan witchcraft-based religion that draws from various historical and folkloric sources. In Wiccan practices, Friday the 13th does not necessarily carry the same negative associations as it does in mainstream culture. Here's an overview of how Friday the 13th is viewed within the context of Wiccan beliefs. Positive symbolism. Friday as Venus Day. In Wiccan tradition, Friday is associated with the planet Venus and is considered a day of love, beauty, and healing. It is often used for spells and rituals related to the matters of the heart, relationships, and self-care. The number 13. Wiccans often see number 13 as a sacred and powerful number. It represents cycles of the moon, which has 13 lunar months in a year, and is linked to the goddess in her various forms. Wiccan philosophy. Nature-centric beliefs. Wicca places a strong emphasis on nature and the cycles of the natural world. The lunar phases, seasons, and other natural rhythms are integral to Wiccan practices. Goddess and God worship. Wiccans revere a goddess and god, often representing the feminine and masculine energies of the universe. The goddess is often associated with the moon and fertility, and her cycles influence Wiccan rituals. Modern influence. Cultural context. While Wiccan beliefs deviate from mainstream superstitions, Wiccans are aware of Friday the 13th superstitions in wider culture. Some Wiccans may choose to harness the energy of this day for particular magic workings, aligning it to their beliefs in harmony with nature and the divine. Personal interpretation. Just as with other aspects of Wiccan practice, the perception of Friday the 13th can vary among individuals and covens. Some may choose to focus on its positive symbolism, while others may incorporate elements from folklore or history to align with their spiritual path. In Wiccan belief, the negative connotations associated with Friday the 13th in mainstream culture are not as prominent. Instead, Wiccans view the day through a lens of reverence for nature, cycles, and the divine feminine. As with any spiritual or religious practice, interpretations can be deeply personal, and different Wiccans may approach Friday the 13th in unique ways that resonate with their spiritual journey. Now we're going to talk about the Friday the 13th movies. So, the Friday the 13th movie franchise is a popular and influential series of horror movies that began in the 1980s. And I'm going to be just telling you an overview. Jason is one of my favorites. Chucky is my absolute favorite. I love Child's Play. I love the original movie. I can watch it anytime. Doesn't matter. I will fall asleep to that bitch. But I would have to say Jason and the Friday the 13th franchise is probably my second favorite. So, number 1, Friday the 13th, 1980. Directed by Sean S. Cunningham, the original film introduced audiences to Camp Crystal Lake, a summer camp plagued by a series of brutal murders. The film's antagonist, Jason Voorhees, was not the killer in this installment, and I'm not going to tell you who was. If you haven't watched the movie, you'll just have to figure it out. But if you do know, drop it in the comments, because I want to know if you guys remember who the actual killer is. Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981. This sequel introduced the iconic hockey mask wearing Jason Voorhees as the main antagonist. The film continued the tale of Camp Crystal Lake and featured a group of camp counselors falling victim to Jason's wrath. Friday the 13th, Part 3, 1982. In this installment, Jason finally gets his iconic mask for the first time. The film utilized 3D technology to enhance the horror experience and featured many more creative kills. And I wish I was born at that time, because I would have loved to go see this in 3D. Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, 1984. Despite its title, the film was not the end of the franchise. It showcased the apparent demise of Jason Voorhees, but his legacy lived on as a copycat killer took center stage. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, 1985. This entry explored the psychological effects of previous films on character Tommy Jarvis, who had encountered Jason before. a new killer emerged, mimicking Jason's modus operandi. I know that saying, I've never seen it written down, so I apologize if I just butchered it. Friday the 13th, part 6. Part 6? What did we do? We just did 5. 6. Jason Lives, 1986. Bringing Jason back to life, this installment injected humor and self-awareness into the series. Tommy Jarvis inadvertently revives Jason and chaos ensues. Now, I'll tell you what. The first 4 movies of this franchise are the best ones, I think. Anything after that is good, but you have to realize that it was the 80s and it's gonna get campy, and 2 of them just really suck, and just don't watch them. They're awful. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Friday the 13th, part 7. The New Blood, 1988. In this film, Jason is facing off against a telekinetic girl with psychic powers. Their clash led to immense confrontations and memorable kills. Friday the 13th, part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. It's terrible. You don't have to watch this one. I don't think it really has any significance in the storytelling. Jason leaves Crystal Lake and ends up on a cruise ship bound for New York. Despite the title, much of the film's action takes place on the ship. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, 1993. This installment introduces a supernatural element as Jason's spirit possesses various bodies. This film delves into Jason's family history and introduced a mysterious artifact. I don't remember watching this one. I do have the box set that me and Wolf, my husband, we need to go through and watch it again. But I honestly couldn't tell you anything about this one because I don't remember it. Jason X, 2002. It's terrible. Don't watch it. Don't even look at it. It's awful. Okay? It's awful. In a futuristic setting, Jason is frozen and reawakened in the 25th century, wreaking havoc on the spaceship. Don't watch it. It's terrible. If you do watch it, I warned you, I don't want any backlash. Freddy vs. Jason, 2003. I didn't like it. It's okay. I'll watch it. But I think the last time I watched it, I got maybe 15 minutes in and I had to shut it off. If you do like it, that's great. I don't like it. This is a crossover film with Nightmare on Elm Street, so it's literally Freddy Krueger versus Jason Voorhees, and they battle off for supremacy. Do with that what you will. 12. Friday the 13th, 2009. This is a reboot of the series. This film combined elements of the earlier movies. It explored Jason's backstory and brought the slasher icon back to Crystal Lake. Now, this one I like. If you watch Supernatural, you know Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester. He plays in this. He's one of the main people in the 2009 Friday the 13th movie. Now, despite varying critical receptions of the Friday the 13th franchise, it remains a beloved and enduring part of horror cinema, with Jason Voorhees becoming an iconic figure in the genre. The series has left a significant impact on popular culture and continues to be a favorite among horror fans. The Friday the 13th movie franchise is not directly based on a significant source material like a novel or true events. However, the franchise was inspired by the combination of horror film trends, urban legends, and the success of other horror movies at the time. The original Friday the 13th, 1980, was influenced by the success of movies like Halloween, 1978, which popularized the slasher film genre. The film follows a group of young camp counselors who are stalked and murdered by an unknown killer at Camp Crystal Lake. The success of this movie led to the creation of the long-running franchise that focused on the character Jason Voorhees as the main antagonist. The subsequent films include the franchise exploring various aspects of Jason's story, including his background and motives for the killings. The franchise also played on popular horror movie tropes and incorporated elements of suspense, gore, and creative kills to capture audiences. While the franchise doesn't have a single direct source of inspiration, it drew from the bordered horror film landscape of the time and created its own mythology and lore around the character of Jason Voorhees. Over the years, the Friday the 13th movies have become an iconic part of horror cinema, and Jason Voorhees has become one of the most recognizable and enduring figures in the genre. I like these movies. I don't like all the movies, but I do like them. And if you can, I'm sure they're on something this time of year, maybe on Shudder, which I think is all horror movies. They might even be on Netflix, I'm not sure. Or maybe HBO Max, they might be on that. But if you have a chance and you haven't seen them, I definitely recommend watching the first 4 at least. And maybe then the 2009 version, because it is good. And we will be back next week with another spooky video. Halloween is coming, and it's coming fast. So I hope you like, comment, subscribe, share, send me cat pictures or dog pictures or frog pictures. I don't care, but let me know how you're feeling about these videos.